Is social media the most dangerous weapon today? As events began to unravel and deteriorate in the Middle East and Israel the last few weeks, people noticed something that may be unprecedented, or at least not to that extent. How much social media was being used, primarily TikTok and other platforms, to firstly mobilize mobs or groups or teams, however you want to identify it, as well as a propaganda tool. I remember back then when they called it the Arab Spring, later they called it an Arab Spring that turned into an Arab Winter. So if you may recall, then social media too was quite prominent. But nothing compared to what is going on today, simply because these technologies have developed. So I thought, on a very serious note, that we should discuss that issue. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Is social media become the most dangerous weapon of all? Because with it, you can reach literally unlimited amount of people. You can say whatever you want to say. It's unfiltered, uncensored, for good or for bad. And what results can it yield? What can it turn things into? So, to begin from the beginning, I think it's important to state the following, just to make sure we understand things in context. In my book, Toward a Meaningful Life, I have a chapter on science and technology. Now remember, this book almost precedes even the web, the World Wide Web, internet, which began essentially in 1994, 95, for common use for each one of us. It was already in universities earlier, and of course the government and the military were using it, but as far as the public goes. But nevertheless, technology was still a big topic. Technology wasn't born in the 21st century. Who is it that said that technology is whatever was invented after you were born? So for us, printed books seem like a given, but it was once a technology. And so technology has always challenged the human race. In one sense, Socrates said, when they first began to write down, engrave in tablets ideas, instead of just orally and verbally passing it on from teacher to student, Socrates famously said that this is the beginning of the downfall of mankind. Because instead of using minds, people are we're talking about tablets now, not the tablets of our time. We're talking about stone tablets. And when the printing press came out, they said the same thing. And Jeff Bezos quoted all that when Kindle first was launched. So technology has also always been a threat in many ways, but also great opportunities. So how do you put technology into context? This may sound simple, but I think it's critical to be stated. It's no different than a kitchen knife. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? If you use it for good things, you're cutting food, use other ways to help improve life, home life, social life, then it's a good thing. If you use it, God forbid, to stab someone or to hurt someone, then it's a bad thing. In other words, technology is neutral. It's morally neutral, just as science is morally neutral. The problem is that people immediately start associating a neutral item with the way it's been used. And we need to separate the two. So that's the most important thing to mention. The truth is the same as with fire, the same with water. We can't live without fire and water. And yet, fire destroys as water can. So what does that mean? It all depends how you use it. And whether it's used in the right measure and the right discipline with the proper restraints. And this is true about every blessed thing in life. Everything in life is that way. You have the two options. So now that things have accelerated to the point where literally everybody in their hand, your mobile phone, your smartphone, you can communicate, you can get any information, anytime, anywhere. Literally, transcending time and space. What is this? It's a neutral tool that can be either used for great things or it can be used for destructive purposes. Or it can be also neutral for nonsense. Well, I don't know if nonsense is neutral, but meaningly not harmful, but not productive either. And it's vital to know that because we live in a time where, if you notice, there's a very interesting paradox going on. On one hand, we have advancements in medicine, in science, in technology. Just look at the longevity, the life expectancy of a human being today compared to 100 years ago. I mean, it's literally doubled from 48 or 45 years old to now to 80, 85. I mean, so on one hand, the advancements would seem to suggest that we are a more advanced society. But on the other hand, you notice another statistic which is going in the opposite diametric opposite direction, and that is the breakdown of family, of love, of integrity in relationships. In the value systems, we are not necessarily more advanced. I would even suggest the other way around. So how do you reconcile that? On one hand, we're connected more than ever, technologically, communications, and so on. On the other hand, the global village, on the other hand, many ways we're more disconnected than ever. You know, we may have many friends on Facebook or on Instagram or other things, but do we have personal friends, someone you can speak to that you can trust, that will not stab you in the back? We have a real erosion of trust, and we'll call it the values, the invisible values, that really are the glue and the very essence of what makes us human and what makes us healthy. I'll name them: nurturing, love, building confidence, values, truth. I'm avoiding using religious terms, but yes, for some, faith. These are all invisible things. These are not commodities you can buy on any shelf or online. So how do we explain this seeming paradox? That the more advancements are not necessarily making your relationships better. Has the internet, has technology actually improved, for example, marriage? Has it improved relationships between parents and children? Some will say actually it's done the opposite. You know how many people tell me, my spouse is sleeping with someone else? I say, who? With her or his iPhone. So it's actually caused many people to have an opportunity now to avoid each other. And yes, superficially we can text and we can connect and so on. But is that because technology is bad? Obviously not, because it's neutral and it can be used also for beautiful things. So one way to explain it is because when there's more comfort, there's more apathy. When we have more success and prosperity and more options, and things get easier in life, that you can press a button and have a delivery at your home within a half hour or an hour, we become more apathetic, and that's when our inner values, our inner lives can suffer. They don't have to, but they can. And they usually do because we don't develop more vigilance as we've developed all these technologies. So essentially, human progress opens up very many new possibilities, but has it also, to check it, also opened up new responsibilities? That's the question. And we know the answer to that, because no one took account for that. We just considered it our blessing. Look, the fact of the matter is, before COVID did change some perspectives because it forced us to look inward, because our outer security blankets and comfort zones were ripped away from us. But before COVID, and even now as we gravitate back to the new norm, the old norm, whatever you want to call it, if you ask the average young man or woman, and I would even say middle-aged man or woman, or even older man or woman, what are the three most important priorities in your life? The younger the person, their things would be quite superficial. Sex, sports, video games, entertainment, travel. If you ask someone 150 years ago, even those things may have been important, but when you're struggling for survival, your values are critical. In a time of war, and God forbid there should ever be a war, and that's not at all what I'm recommending, you have to then crystallize your values. When the United States entered World War II, it was for a noble cause. It was because of values. It wasn't just because they had nothing better to do. Lives were lost. Millions of lives were lost. When it's in time of peace, which is a great blessing, the greatest blessing, we can lose sight of that, and things don't become so compelling. There's no sense of urgency. So what suffers most? Our inner values, because there's no reason to fight for them. So technology, by definition, being neutral is an advancement, but one critical thing that has to come with it is, are we teaching our children and ourselves equal amount of responsibility for these new possibilities? For every gift you have, you need to become a greater person, or else the gift can become a great enemy. So to go now to the topic of social media, yes, it all comes down to not the media itself, not the platform, but how people are using it. Do we want the social media companies to begin to determine what they're censoring and what they're not, and then depending on their political views and their biased opinions? So this is really a call to each of us. So when I was looking into this and I realized, wow, one person puts up a TikTok, it reaches thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. Right away, they have a view on a perspective. They've never checked the facts. It could completely change your attitude, or it could evoke and provoke all your passions for good or for bad. That's the power. So it really comes down to how we counter that with responsibility. And I want to call it the most dangerous weapon. I think the most dangerous weapon is the human choices we make. It's not the technologies. It's not the items that we have around us. Those are either opportunities, or they can be either blessings or they can become curses. So no, we're not advocating eliminating technology. We're advocating that the human being has to catch up. Technology is far ahead of us. Today we can have the illusion that we are invulnerable. And I go again, pre-COVID, that we're invulnerable. Look, what we can do. When you have all these opportunities, when you have all these gadgets, when you have all these abilities to communicate, to reach, to buy, to purchase, to everything that technology offers us, it creates the illusion that we're Supermen. COVID was a real reality check, a wake-up call. We suddenly realized, you know what, all these technologies cannot protect us from a microscopic microbe that disrupted the entire world, continues to disrupt every segment of society, every sector, from education to work, to travel, to entertainment, our summer plans, our winter plans. I'm not even talking about the fears associated with the very virus itself, the uncertainties. So I have personally witnessed in my own work, actually this program began right in the middle of COVID because we felt the need to increase in programming that now counters all those uncertainties with deeper spiritual fortitude and strength. But the point I'm making here is that this technology can be used in the greatest way, because today you can broadcast a message of love, of kindness, and reach millions and millions of people. Unfortunately, and I'm not just looking at our youth, all of us, are we doing that? So I want to make a suggestion. For every email, every text, every time you use WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it may be, and I'm not even listing them all, LinkedIn, every time you use it for either personal purposes or business purposes, you should counter it with 2 texts or 2 emails or 2 messages that share a kind and loving message with another. It's a simple resolution. And I'm not talking about counting the numbers, but the attitude. Doing it ourselves and teaching it to our children. Message number 1 in that is, we begin education from the youngest age possible. So it's true, if you can keep an iPhone away or an Android or a smartphone away from your kids, the longer the better, frankly. But once they begin to be exposed to it, if you teach it, so number 1, it creates an attitude. Technology was given to us as a gift. It's a gift. It can be used in many different ways. So whatever you do, always know that this gift was meant for you to do something kind with it. And it's very easy today. You don't even have to create your own message. Find something that touched you. A quote, a thought, a picture, a cartoon, and share it. Share it with your contact list. And 2 for 1. At least 2 for 1. You can do many more than 2. So number 1, it educates us all, including our children, from early age, that is what technology was given to us for. The second thing it does, it actually actualizes, as the Kabbalists and the mystics put it, the divine sparks, the spiritual sparks within technology. Everything has a spark. Like the kitchen knife has a spark, atomic energy, nuclear energy has a spark. So does social media. So does every technology. And that spark is waiting to be redeemed, to be used when you use that item. When you take a piece of food and you use the strength that you gain from that food, the nutrients, to go help another, to do something, be more loving, be kinder, the spark is elevated. If you just indulge in it, and especially even worse, you use that strength to hurt someone, you have desecrated that spark. So the second thing we do by using technology for the positive is we actually are redeeming its spark. And technology is then living up to its fullest potential, not just as a tool to make life easier, but a tool to improve yourself and the world around you. Number 3, light is always stronger than darkness. The best way to fight social media being used in the negative is by using it in the positive. Because it's going to be very difficult to just influence and educate people who are using it in a bad way, in a destructive way, in an insightful way, in a racist way, using it for discrimination, to spread lies, to spread prejudices and stereotypes and so on. So when we introduce the light through good messages, that dispels darkness. And I don't just mean that on a spiritual level, even on a very practical level. If we can flood the world, if we can flood these pipelines of technology with positivity, it gets out there. People will hear about it. And that reminds you, you know what? Am I doing what I should be doing with my life? I'm not being naive here and suggesting that you do that, all our problems are solved, social media will never be used again in a negative way. I'm just suggesting things that are possible for us to do. There's some things that are not naturally possible because either we don't have that influence or we don't have that power. But there are things that each of us can do. The fourth thing it does, it empowers you. Psychologically, we can become very debilitated and demoralized when you feel powerless. Like, look what's going on. Look at these messages coming my way. Yeah, you can block them, but they get to other people and you start saying, there's no way to stop this cascading avalanche of negativity. But when you begin to use it positively, psychologically and emotionally, it makes you feel, I can do something. And that gives you strength to counter that powerlessness that paralyzes us when we look around us and we see how things are multiplying, especially in an exponential way with technology that has the power, that viral power to just ignite like a little spark and flame, and suddenly it's engulfing the entire world. And definitely more benefits as well. That's my suggestion, practical suggestion. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because this is a real issue, and not just in the Middle East, it's everywhere. It's right there, and you're listening, you're using your phone right now or your technology to listen to me here. So this is a present reality in our lives. Technology has now become almost an extension of our very bodies. So it's critical to start addressing it in that fashion. Imagine someone suddenly added a new limb to your body. You should be careful to make sure that that limb is consistent with you want it to be doing, and definitely not attacking the rest of you. So we have the opportunity now to preempt a full-out assault and attack on our psyches that technology is allowing us, that inundation that marketers use, even for good intentions, and definitely those that have very ill intentions, predators, and different negative forces, toxic forces that are using technology. So it's time to take a stand, and the best defense is offense. If enough of us, grassroots, take that approach, we take that offensive, we go on the offensive proactively to flood these lines, all these waves with positive messages, with kind messages, bring more love into the world, there's no question that the power of love will overcome the love of power. It's always been great speaking with you. Simon Jacobson here. Check us out. meaningfullife.com is the hub of our activity. There you have a robust schedule of programs, and you can communicate with us through all the channels: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, email, texting, social media, and let's use it for what it should be used. And again, I would love to hear from your thoughts. suggestions, rebuttals, likes. So please share this with others. Let's turn this into a real movement that can bring true change, ripple effect, the butterfly effect that ripples through the universe with light and love and kindness and gentleness that will counter the hostility and the anger and the violence that is so prevalent, especially lately. We should only hear good news. Everybody be well and healthy. Light, be an ambassador of light, and use every means and every medium and every platform to do so. Thank you very much. See you again every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time.